So the only points I'll give myself, my only points that I give myself are that I did not title today's video Rush Limbaugh, Alex Jones, and Satan trending on Twitter on same day. I perchance should have. It's perchance a missed opportunity to capitalize on events and go for those views. If I were to articulate to the audience, to you personally, that I had a drive or agenda to please the crowd and do things for the benefit of others rather than honoring my desires to talk about what I want to talk about, I don't know if there's any one of you who would say, oh, that's a good thing. Forget what you want to talk about. Just please the crowd. So we move forward, and I move forward doing what I want to do. And invariably, I will be as consistent as I have been in the past, which means inconsistent. Saying one thing, drawing one line in the sand, jumping over it twice, and then saying something else. I'm figuring it out. I'm working, retooling. All bets are off. And I can tell you honestly, the one thing that is new over the past, it's been a slow dawning over the past couple of months. Like probably like really starting with the new year, is I could not give a damn more and more about the numbers and whether or not, these videos get any audience. And quite frankly, I can envision, honestly, I can envision a time, I started doing these videos in 2015. And for years, I couldn't imagine ever, it's like, losing your virginity. There was a point before this amazing transformation, and there's this point after this amazing transformation. You're qualitatively different for having had this experience or opening into this new world. And you couldn't imagine ever going back. I could absolutely imagine and envision a world where this YouTube experience is in the past. You know what I mean? And I can even envision a point where I gleefully take all of the old content, all the vintage content that people thought had, so much value or whatever, and just flush it, celebratorily even, and to start again. There are obviously aspects of things that we've explored and I've explored with you that have object permanence for me, that are, fixed and I think have value. But the individual articulations don't. That which has been stated and which I've memorized can be stated again. And we continue. And we continue. It's funny. I'll say this much. I'll say that another thing that I've noticed over the past series of videos is, as I've been talking about hashtag no new music, it is what I'm excited to talk about, is what I'm excited to study and to learn about and contemplate, among other things, but in my life. And for something that I can honestly say is like closer to, my highest vibration, I know and understand that that more so than as of earlier videos, I seem to react. I can see myself and I can understand that I react very strongly. Um, and that I'm angry, or I appear or seem to be angry. And I notice this because I think we have inherited notions of, what it means to be, living one's purpose, or to be at peace. And it's like, or to care about things. And, and so I think about it, and I think maybe perchance, I should be able to communicate, or I should explore communicating things to people, differently. Um, rather than getting upset or angry, taking a moment and articulating the same thoughts and ideas that I would otherwise angrily, and then don't do it angrily. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't yell at the children, don't punch the cop, articulate, use your words. Um, but, but yeah, you know what I mean? And we move forward through time, and we have these experiences, and I just, the title of today's video, "The Live Chat is on Trial," is because, this came up last broadcast, and I see the numbers, and you know what I mean? And I'm filled with, oftentimes there's different things. There's a me that's here that's perfectly content and happy. And there's a me that's, loathsome and just, full of bile and just so angry, at the, stupidity I have to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? We'll figure it out. It'll all be okay. But what I mean by to say that the live chat is on trial is that, I am aware, and I think that I want you people to be aware. There is a give and take that's articulated through the live chat, but the live chat is just a proxy for anybody or everybody who watches these videos from starts to finish and has an opinion, or especially a difference of opinion, with me in regards to the state of modern culture and the repetitious nature of it. And it's not just that it's just, inundated with nostalgia. I believe that the mankind's ability to create lasting and perfected and good works, may have ended somehow, and I don't really know how it happened. We have our theories, but it's incredible. I mean, if you look back at music albums that were released and compare them to the music that's released today, it's just, even beautiful music is garbage. I mean, I don't know what happened, why it's like that, but it just seems to be that way. And this is just, a lot of this is like a fantastical way of saying things, and is hyperbole to say the least. Which is not to say, I mean, there is beautiful music. There's music with a beat. There's music that gets you pumping. There's catchy tunes. But something qualitatively seems to have changed about life. And I experience it. It's experiential to me. This is how I feel and how I'm perceiving the world around me. And I'm working to ascertain these things with objective verification. If you understand, I'm trying to experience the world and understand what's happening. And it's not just, I'm old now, and older people always think that, the music of the youth is like, it's not that I don't understand the music of the youth, or that it's shocking to me, or you call that music. Experimental music has been, one of the many, cups from which I've supped over decades and decades now. And it's, so it's not that I don't get it, or it's like challenging to me, or, or I don't know how to deal with dissonance. This is not a call to return to a Western cultural norm of music when it honored the laws of harmony, melody, and rhythm. And, Benny Goodman, now that's what I call music, volume 1, whatever. It's not that at all. It is what it is. I move forward and I lose the plot and I need to circle back. The live chat being on trial. You're all on trial in this sense, is that I am sick and tired. You know what I mean? Like, tell me that I'm wrong. Don't just make a statement, you're wrong. If I say to you that there's no qualitatively original new music going on, that is to say that there's no music happening that could not have happened before or is so alien to those musics which came before that it could be said to be some sort of new articulation. Give me the example. Name me the artist. Point me in the direction. Tell me about the link. Don't just say that's not the case, or whatever, because that's frustrating. And you can. I thought about this before I put the camera on, and it gives rise to the live chat being on trial, or us all being on trial here. Let's see if I should write down. So I make these statements about hashtag no new music. I make these statements about life, about observable phenomena in music, media, and the arts. And in response to that, you can say, well, I don't know if that's the case. I'm still exploring, or I'm still looking. I still think you could be wrong about this, or that something could change, right? You can say, CW, you're wrong and incorrect, and here's the artist, here's the musician, here's the writer, here's the author, here's the film auteur that is producing, or group of people that are producing, objectively creative new works for you to educate yourself and leave this hashtag no new music thing behind. Or you can you can accept, right, the premises as given, and come to agree with me, or you can have this a reaction. If we call those things other things, positivist, or still searching for an answer, what follows, after this point is negative. There's people that, first of all, there's people that can be stupid about it. Like, I say that there's no new music, and I articulate and I give reasons or rationales, or the testing or the criteria that I think new music fails under. And then someone's like, Kanye West's new record, it's just or they, I had a person, God bless them, God has blessed them, child of God, who literally tweeted me who's this guy? The Weeknd, who's always just been a Michael Jackson clone, and who I've talked about as being a Michael Jackson clone and wannabe Michael Jackson kind of guy. An 80s nostalgia throwback out the wazoo. I've literally spoken about this. Person's like, what do you think about this? And it's literally like an 80s homage video with an 80s homage soundtrack. And I have to say to myself, is this person trying to goad me? Or is this person literally able to hear this and think to themselves that this might be a possible argument against me? Whereas I believe objectively the only thing to do with, in regards to hashtag no new music and an artist like The Weeknd, is to say, here's an example of what CW Chanter is talking about when he talks about everything being a recycled, rehash, reused, repurposed nostalgia trip. And let me say again that this is not me saying that musicians shouldn't create music. This is not me saying that people don't have personal value. It's to say that, look, you know what I mean? Not every objection is a reasonable objection. And not every argument is a reasonable argument against it. So you can have these like reactions to the bum out that is hashtag no new music. And I urge everyone to unsubscribe. I mean, like I really this whole, you know what I mean, there's no point at this point. But I'm not depressed, you know what I mean. I really just, in the finding of things, and in the purification process of turning lead into gold, there's that which is left behind. There's that which, doesn't make the cut. And it is what it is. So based on, I see people in the audience. Okay. I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna see what's going on. There you go. There you go. And we're gonna get through it. And there are times when it's gonna be, there are times when it's going to be we're going to be up and happy, and there's times when it's going to be more of a things that are. It is what it is. We'll figure it out. So I'm gonna do my best. We are going to try and do our best. Oh, you know what I mean. I'm familiar with both those rappers, Jay, and I gotta be honest. Um, yeah, hey, case assurance says no new topics. Well, there might be new topics. Somber tone. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to deny that there's a somber tone. So this is what's been interesting to me, is that simultaneous with the moving forward in directions and exploring things that I am. That is to say, this is that instead of saying to myself, "Oh, geez, Louise, I want to in my life, I'm exploring this body of topics or these subject matters." Yet the YouTube channel responds positively to these other topics and subject matters. So, it has become increasingly dissatisfying. And I've done it. We've done it recently. I did a Simon Parks video, last week, and I explicitly said, okay, maybe I'm going to do one of these once a week, as kind of fan service or to keep the channel growing. So, I have ideas all the time that I try, and I try it once and I'm like, it's like sex work. There have been plenty of people who have dipped their toe in that ocean. There are plenty of people who put 5 nudes up on OnlyFans, woke up the next day and deleted the account and was like, oh, I can't, there's plenty of people who said, fuck it, but I've sucked dick before, I'll suck dick again. What's $500 if he's not the greatest guy in the world? And then they're crying in the shower, wondering when the dirty feeling is going to go away, and they end up in therapy and they get over it, and many of them don't do it again. Plenty of gals have jumped up on the pole. Not for me. Nope. You try things out, you work things, you move things. And that's not to say that I might not come back in 2 weeks and say, okay, I'm doing another Carrie Cassidy video because fuck it. We got this channel. We got 5,000 subscribers. We might as well keep it going. We're in flux, and I come to you and I bring myself to you. So as a human being, by nature and definition, in flux at all times and states of being, we will there'll be days when I'm having, great old time of this and, happily discussing things. And there'll be times when we're a little bit more somber or dour. And it is what it is. I think the mistake would be to try to attempt to move and be one way or another. You know what I mean? To act as though, or act as if, or to present some sort of, happier mediated image. Down Jones Miller says, "Are any strip clubs still open?" Yes, some strip clubs are open, but many have closed their doors. I think it depends on where you are. I think it's venue specific, right? There you go. See, this is what I mean. Like, Rogue Status is, Jesus, stop being such a this. Just for drive-throughs? Oh no, I'm mixing things up. Oh, you kid. Well, there you go. So I'm not gonna take it personal. I'm not gonna get upset. But it is what it is. As if other people haven't had bad days. So, and it's not even particularly a bad day. So here's moving back. So here's what's interesting to me. Here's what I'm noticing. So as I'm moving closer to what I think is a state of intellectual or philosophical purity, not doing this shit, but rather talking about those things which I am naturally attracted to talking about and which is occupying my brain space already. That is to say, not going out of my way to create content, to go into this other well or mine this other resource, but rather be organic about, what I'm thinking about and what's going on in my brain space. As I'm coming closer to that, there has been an increase in, me snapping at the live chat or me, getting, angry about things. It's actually good, I think, that I'm recording this earlier in the day when there's other people in the office suite, because I think that's a natural prophylactic against me, yelling and going crazy. There you go. It's all good. We'll figure it out. You know what I mean? We'll figure it out. And it is what it is. I mean, I say that, but it is what it is. So in trying to figure out why that's occurring, I have some thoughts to share. Well, number one is like, the stuff that I'm studying when I do this, when I go about this hashtag no new music, which is a negative statement, right? It's a negative statement. It's not a positivist statement. It is not me saying, here's something that's fantastic about life. Here's something fantastic about, hello, Darcy, how you doing? About the world around us or what's happening, or here's something new and exciting and good. It's saying something about, it is speaking about decay. It is speaking about entropy. And therefore, when I tell you organically that this is stuff that I'm already thinking about, part of the reason that I might be negative or more dour is because I'm not exploring things that I think are, that stuff that I think is awesome sauce. Do you know what I mean? I am enjoying going back to certain eras, but it's bittersweet when I listen to, music from 1987 and I have to honestly say that having listened to a ton of music from 1987 and then having gone out of my way, I listen to probably about 2 records a day of stuff that I wouldn't necessarily say that I wanted to hear. I just, made myself, listen to it. And Gerald Paris is here. Long time no see. There you go. How you doing? We love you too. Fantastic. Good to see you around. You put a smile on my face. Hope everything's good your way. Hope everything's fantastic with your family. What ends up happening is I can tell you, it's like, this like, you listen to an album like Among the Living by Anthrax, or you listen to Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses, or you listen to, Strange Ways Here We Come by the Smiths, and you honestly think, and, you objectively ask the question, and it's not as though, and I listen to new music now, with a sort of purpose, but it's not as though, like I tell people, like, It's not as though I'm one of these guys that sits there in his, in his man cave, with, his Charlie Daniels records and his Conway Twitty 45s and says, "Oh, they don't make it like they used to." No, I expose myself to new shit all the fucking time. And a lot of it's interesting. A lot of it's diverting. A lot of it has this pop song structure and it's catchy. But there's a gnosis. There's an internal reverberation and feeling that, come on, this is not as good a pop rock record as was produced by Nick Lowe or Elvis Costello back in 1978 through 82. I see what they're doing. I see the milieu. Singing with an English accent. Keep my English accent in my song. Yeah. That shit in 2013 through 2021 is just what it is. It's not a new sculpture. It's not a new form of sculpture. It's not taking pop rock in a bold new direction. And neither is taking, this what I call this faux creativity, where it's you put a hip hop beat underneath the folksy singer songwriter, as if that changes anything dramatically. It's a faux revolution. And the same thing with, we talked about last time, the creating the endless, calling every new track or style a new genre. No, it's not. Reamsey giving us $3, giving the poor homeless man in the corner $3. Like, God bless you, God bless you for your continued financial support, and I wish you all the luck in the world with your upcoming performance. Is that tonight? Did it already happen? God bless you, guys. Bless you. Reamsey, greatest YouTube content creator of all time. So again, so here we go. Down Jones Muller, to allowing myself to be distracted by the live chat, says, how do you feel about auto-tune? Auto-tune works perfectly on the 20-year nostalgia loop, because yes, it is a new form. It was a new sound. But at the end of the day, all that auto-tune really was a new form of vocoder. In the 1970s, with disco groups and electronic music groups like Kraftwerk, there was an experiments with a new type of synthesizer that could be its volume and its embouchure could be modified by the human voice. I don't know how to put it into technical terms. I don't, when you hear it, it's the Stevie Wonder, it's a variation on it was a guitar device called the Hale Talkbox that was used famously by Peter Frampton on Frampton Comes Alive, and on that song, Do You Feel Like We Do? Where it's like the guitar's talking, man. And that was used again by Mick Mars and Motley Crue for, I think, the song like Kickstart My Heart. They used it to kind of do a faux kind of rev, car revving up type of thing. So and then vocoder came back into fashion in the mid 90s hip hop with Dr. Dre. There's vocoder all over the song. If you want a great example of vocoder, and this goes back to the 20 nostalgia loop, 1990s hip hop, 1970s soul, just a repetition, taking old things and making them slightly new again. But then again, here we are, like 25, 26 years post California by Dr. Dre and Tupac Shakur. And, you're going back to nostalgia for a thing that was put together of taking nostalgic elements of the past and putting them together. Even the music video, which was an homage to Beyond Thunderdome with Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome with Mel Gibson and Tina Turner, We don't need another hero. The hell we don't. So there's vocoder all over that track, and so this then was also a higher ground, by Stevie Wonder. The vocoder was a synthesizer-esque vocal sound that was popular in the 1970s. Used also used for like a lot of robot sounds and whatever. So auto tune, which gained its most prevalence in with Cher's, do you believe in life after love? Me and friends used to just I had a group of friends who would refer to auto-tune as funny voice. And then it became the kind of the main sound for a guy. Who's the guy? He's a rapper. I'm in love with a stripper. T-Pain, went crazy with a vocoder, over abusing auto-tune. And what auto-tune was basically designed to do is it's a computer program that was designed to fix flat or sharp notes in a vocal performance. But what the producers had found is that by abusing auto-tune, and that is by, putting at its most like stringent, extreme settings, you could create this voice that would kind of like warble a little bit and have this kind of robotic quality to it, though you could clearly hear that it was a human singing. And I'm going to argue that while it's a unique sound, it's unique from vocoding specifically, it's still at the end of the day achieved the same result, which is just using technology to make the human inhuman. And then you see a lot of this is a lot of the same, was same kind of effect was explored in dance music, and into this day with jump cutting on vocals. Like they used to do this with a sampler. It started off as kind of crude, but now essentially people can cut up audio into very, very fine slices, and they can position it and go all over the beat with it, and it creates this kind of fractured sound or glitchy sound. But people were exploring that from 1996 with the computer technology as it evolved through 2000. So I still argue that what's really kind of freaking me out, and I think what's freaking a lot of people out, is that these futuristic sounds have already been done in the past. So it's what are you going to do now? You know what I mean? Like post Mersbo, post Aphex Twin and Autechre in dance music, post the Austrian classical musical ensemble Zydeco doing a chamber music cover version of Lou Reed's 1975 Metal Machine music. What are you going to do that is going to be able to be articulated as new? What can you do that is objectively new? So and that's where we are. Thank you, Don Jones Muller, for asking the question, because I feel like it gave me an opportunity to articulate some thoughts that are not even original in and of themselves. I am not the first person to talk about nostalgia, the effects of nostalgia. We talked last time, and we name checked for the a billionth time. Mark Fisher and Derrida, and the concept of hauntology. We are where we are. So coming back to it, talking about these things, it's not necessarily leaves me I mean, if I come to talk to you and I do this a intellectual or doctorate dissertation upon starvation amongst children in Appalachia, that it may be work worth doing, but it's not necessarily work that, having been done, is going to put a smile on my face or a smile on anybody's face. So it is what it is. But thank you for asking the question, because I think that's like an actual question. Like the most like frustrating thing in the world is I see people, and it's like in the live chat, it's like, you're clearly not interested in what I'm saying. Like I couldn't honestly tell you that there's sometimes I look at certain people in live chat and I'm like, why are you here? Other than it gives you an opportunity to be present or to talk to other people. Like, why do it here? It makes no sense. And it just creates a signal to noise ratio. It's like being like having to, imagine if you gave, of every college lecture, not to say that, my work is so amazing that, it's like a college lecture, but imagine trying to give a college lecture at, at Action Park. You know what I mean? It's like, why are you, you know what I mean? Like, you're not on the class roster. You're not required to be here. Like, what are you doing? And obviously, I'm not talking to Dow Jones Muller. Zikafoos 2020. It's the compound interest of stolen music. Yikes. So I'll move down the line. Here we go. Zikafoos with $1.99. Do you read Fred Moten? I can't say that I did. Or have, I should say. I can't say that I have. Laney Liberty says, many of us are here because we support you and oftentimes learn from you. I thank you. It's tough sometimes. So oftentimes I'll find myself articulating a statement. And then I get the feedback from the live chat. And I say to myself, gee, I articulated that poorly. Or came off the wrong way, or you know what I mean, like I don't want to, and I don't necessarily need to. It is what it is. It is what it is. And it is what it is. Moving forward, have I said what I need to say today? So I pause now at the 40-minute mark, and I say to myself, is this where we should end? Because if we've reached the point, if I've articulated, if I've spoken, if I've looked at the live chat, and we've come to this moment, is now a nicest place as any to stop. Because I've thought about this, about like my videos, that they oftentimes go long, or it gets nuts, and yeah, let's try. It's not the 22-minute mark. I wouldn't even say I'm having a rough day. It's like I'm not. See, that's what I really. So Rogue Status says, having a rough day. You made your point. Yeah, I think I have made my point. We might be going out, but I cannot. I really want to express how much I'm not having a rough day. Like how absolutely, fine I am with the state of affairs and with what is occurring. But we are trying to find out when it's okay to stop, because here's the other thing. If I come and I'm here Opeth, God bless them, UFO not. So here's one of the problems that with trying to articulate the no new music thing, is that a lot. So Opeth, let's look. I want to do this. ATTG says, end on a high note. Although I did just get here, it's been nothing but low notes. We've been singing the blues to a degree, even though I'm not upset with it at all, or upset with life. I'm really okay. So one of the things with the articulating no new music, or talking about originality in music, is oftentimes people will cite artists that have been around for 10 bajillion years. Opeth is an example. So let's see, their debut album came out in 1995. So remember, a lot of what I articulate and talk about in regards to the hashtag no new music has to do with statements about music that came out kind of certainly post 2011 moving forward. So there, with examples increasing over time as we travel from, say, 1978, 79, 80 forward, where I start to say, even in the early 80s, we see the rot of imitation and repetition and the worshiping of nostalgia taking hold in all aspects of media, leading to the so-called 20 or 30-year nostalgia loop, meaning that if you look at what's going on in media, music, television, arts, music, books, whatever, and you go back, you could fashion, you could see that it's really not so much as anything as other than a recycling of what was going on 20 years, 20 to 30 years before. So if it starts in the 80s, there are going to be examples. So if I talk about hashtag no new music, so when we talk about a group like Opeth, what people need to know and understand is that oftentimes our feelings about artists are feelings that are born or are based on earlier works. Okay. So the majority of people who would come to the defense of Metallica's Saint Anger are not people who discovered Metallica as Saint Anger. And even you got to realize that Saint Anger is 20 years old. We're 20 years past Saint fucking Anger, I believe. Or at least, no, I gotta look up Saint Anger. Hold on. (2003), so not quite 20 years old, but getting there. And so when people come to the defense of Metallica, they're not coming to the defense of Saint Anger. They're coming to the defense of Metallica despite Saint Anger. And they're really coming to love. They're articulating their love when they say that Metallica is their favorite band. It's based on the Black Album, or it's based on Master of Puppets, or it might even be based on And Justice for All or the 598 EP from 1987. Or Ride the Lightning, or maybe even Kill 'Em All. And Metallica with Saint Anger, or Metallica with their experiment with Lou Reed, Lulu, you get a particular example of a band that once did amazing things and then did something, whether you think that it should be criticized or not, was considered like a bad record, or they did something, that the fans didn't like or didn't accept, like, Celtic Frost's Cold Lake, where it's just like considered like by most an abomination, though it can be reevaluated in time and endless nostalgia. When you get a band like Opeth, or you get a band like My Dying Bride, or you get a band like Tankard, or you get a band like Anvil, or to a lesser extent Cradle of Filth, you get to bands where they didn't do a Saint Anger. There's no record. Their latest record is not an abomination. You don't hate it. A great example also would be like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, or Radiohead, or there's a million bands, Bjork, where it's not that they did anything with their new record that's an abomination or hate-worthy. It's just that the new albums are not what we're thinking of. They're just kind of continuations of the band moving forward through time, but they're not breaking any new ground. And they don't detract from the legacy, but they're not really adding much to the legacy. So when you get a group like Opeth, if they do something in 1995, two rules. Number one, 1995, I'm not saying that music had stopped being creative, that there was no new music in 1995. But when we get to like the latest era, like, they're another one of these bands that, like, if we go to their discography, we're gonna be able to go through points in time where people knew and understood and followed what they were doing, and then we're gonna get to points in times where it's just we're continuing on, whether it's myself personally or whether it's the music industry in general. And for all I know, Sorceress from 2016 is selling better than Still Life or Blackwater Park from 2001. But I doubt it. For me, Blackwater Park in 2001 was the record that was considered the high water mark for Opeth, where they were doing the most different things. And that's literally 20 years ago. So it might be that they're doing things, then, but it's like, even then, if we want to talk about originality in music, you have to realize that like technical death metal or highly technical death metal or mixing of jazz and elements of that stuff, When were the first records by Pestilence in the death metal genre? When were the first records by, who was that band? They were like, when you thought experimental and metal, you thought about these guys. Oh God, what the hell were they called? Kanduru. Remember Kanduru? So you know, it is what it is. So, but I will be honest. I will be honest and say that I have not heard the later. I don't know if what the last Opeth record I heard was. So, like I said, there is an argument to be made that CW Chanter had CW Chanter heard every single record that was released in, say, the year 2020. No, of course I haven't. Right? So can I truly say that there's no new music, or just might it be that I haven't heard new music? This is an argument that can be articulated. Absolutely. And it's an argument that can be articulated and may be found out to be true. So all I can offer you is the proofs that I offer, which is I do actively explore new music. I do seek out new music. And what's crazy is that, look, when new releases come out from artists that I love, Brian Eno, Steve Roach, Mortis, a lot Merzbow, I listen. I'm curious and I'm interested, but I can tell you what has been the musical growth of Steve Roach, who I think is a brilliant musician who makes wonderful soundscapes. Robert Rich, Steve Roach. Has there been some things? Well, the most that happened with both these guys is that circa 2000 through 2008, both these individuals went from making very, very kind of appreciably beautiful music, or got into doing noisier things with modular synthesizers. But both of them kind of came out of that phase and are now making music that's just, it's essentially, it's like, what can you tell me about the difference between a Robert Rich record that came out in 2012 versus the latest Robert Rich record, or Steve Roach? Not saying that's not beautiful music, not saying that I'm not interested in hearing it, not saying that I think it's objectionable, but so much of this is tied to the synth music is tied to the technology. And I think we've reached an end point with the technology. Post-granular synthesis, which works with sound at its literally microscopic level, which is where people were at with computer software and computer audio software design in the early 2000s. And since then, there is no new thing to do. And I got to tell you, 99.9% of granular synthesis is you use it a little bit, it produces glitchy type of textures and tones. Use it a little bit more, it can produce weirdly organic kind of sounds. And if you push it to the extreme, it sounds like noise. And considering how long human beings have been exploring quote-unquote noise music, which doesn't start with Merzbow, but absolutely goes back to John Cage and Stockhausen and Xenakis and stuff, and goes back to things that were happening in the 1940s and 50s. What are we really going to say about what is new music or what is possible? But I could also be just being a bit of a negative Nelly, right? And I understand that this work is idiosyncratic and also to a degree aggressive, and therefore will not have the same appeal as some of my other stuff. It's like, I'm making love to the notion of we're going to lose all the subscribers. You know what I mean? And then we're going to get to the nuances is what constitutes. Jenny Quick says, just came in, you look radiating today. Thank you. There you go. Thank you. There you go. Oh my God. So Darcy, whatever happened to Strapping Young Lad? Strapping Young Lad, what was Devin Townsend? He's one of these guys. Oh, someone gave $2.99. What happened here? Did I miss something? Zikavoos gave a super chat. Relationship between nostalgia and confidence. Interesting. I have no idea. I don't know how to start on that statement. I'll leave the statement as it is. I'll read it out for your $2.99. God bless you. God bless you for your continued financial support of this channel. I will read the following: a relationship between nostalgia and confidence. And I'll leave it there. And I'll leave it there. There you go. But I appreciate this. I appreciate people taking on board my challenge, which is to say, Nicholas Krupas, how you doing? How you doing, baby? Which is to say, like articulating or talking about, give me your suggestions for new music. Let's talk about it. Talking about Opeth gave us an ability to articulate and to talk about some things. T-Pain. Akon and T-Pain. Whatever happened to T-Pain? My God. ADDG, who's on trial? You're on trial, baby. You're on trial. You're on trial. Super Mario's on trial. The Coin, Trump Plaza and Hotel in Atlantic City just came down. This is true. So, true story. The day that Rush Limbaugh dies, Alex Jones and Satan were also trending on Twitter. And this is also the same day that they finally did the controlled demolition for the Trump Plaza Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And I'm talking about hashtag no new music. Reamsey, Les Baxter, true futurist. I like the work of Les Baxter. But who is the Les Baxter of today? Who is the Martin Denny of today? And by saying that, it's not who is doing Martin Denny-esque music, how you doing, Reamsey, but rather, what is the Exotica movement of today? Which is not to say, well, who are the people around today doing their modern take on Exotica, right? It's Exotica, but with a hip hop. There was a band called Tipsy that were a little bit big in the late 90s, early 2000s, who, they had a sampler kind of hip hop influenced aesthetic, dance music, sampadelic influenced aesthetic, but they would sample and work with Exotica sounds, like the work of Martin Denny or Les Baxter, or sampling Esquivel, etc. And yeah, but what is the Exotica movement of today? What's even the ambient chill out room movement of today? That's what I'm doing, and I'm Mac Hardy says, do you have any experience with Zydeco music? I have heard Zydeco music. I will not BS and act like I've explored it in depth. I know this is kind of Zydeco adjacent, but I'm familiar with the work, and I have records by Dr. John. I've also heard records by Professor Longhair, but I know that that's getting into it's a lot of that's like New Orleans music, but not necessarily Zydeco. But I know about the washboards and the stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm an expert in it. I think it's beautiful folk music, So I've done which is always the kiss of death, is I've gone back to the live chat. I'm looking at 412 comments. So we'll get through there. I just wanted, because people did say things like, the Opeth comment and the auto-tune comment did move the conversation forward. At 4:15 I was talking about ending, and that was 15 minutes ago. Oh, that's an old standard with me, right? That's an old standard with me. As I say that I'm going to stop, and then I don't stop. Oh, but I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to say that I'm going to do this in this moment. From now on, I'm going to always say Darcy's full name. jeez, I acted like it was so confusing. Like, what the fuck was this name? Sanitarium Radio, STFU Darcy says, whatever happened to Strapping Young Lad? So Strapping Young Lad is the musical, one of the musical personas or projects of a guy called Devin Townsend. Devin Townsend first came to fame because he was picked by Steve Vai to be the lead singer in Steve Vai's first post David Lee Roth, but and guitar, like Steve Vai was one of these, like during the 80s he used to release these like Joe Satriani and him were like the front line of like there was this Guitar Hero music, not Guitar Hero like the video game, but rather heavy metal. Heavy metal was the biggest sound of the world. Hard rock heavy metal was the biggest sound in the world through 86 through essentially 89, right? It was on the top of the charts. And what was it's post Eddie Van Halen? It was all about the guitar player. They gave a shit about the vocalist. The vocalist had to be good looking, be able to sing, and the fuck the drummer, the bass player. They could be like, you know what I mean, like Mark Anthony, you know what I mean? It didn't really matter. But the guitar guy had to be like, right? So there was like, it was Yngwie Malmsteen and Eddie Van Halen, and you know, post Jimmy Page and Jimi Hendrix had given birth to Eddie Van Halen and Yngwie Malmsteen and Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple. So the evolution of the so-called guitar hero, Jeff Beck, and who started releasing those instrumental Jazz Fusac records. Why are people like refusing to call out Jeff Beck for helping to originate the audio abortion that was basically vaporwave before vaporwave was vaporwave, jazz fusion? Oh my God, there's so many of those records that are just like, it's a sin, you know, that they exist. That someone should be put on trial for that. But like, you know, Blow by Blow, which is whatever. But so there were these guys that would release these instrumental metal records, and you know, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai got to do it on, you know, major labels. But there was this record label, I keep on forgetting the name of it. It was out of LA, and they used to release like all these instrumental records by these guitar players. Frig, hold on. If I look up Racer X, I'll be able to find the name of the record label. I don't need the band. Here we go. Shrapnel Records, was that the record label? Shrapnel Records is a guitar-oriented record label started in 1980 by record producer Mike Varney. I forgot that Mike Varney was the douchebag behind Shrapnel Records. Shrapnel Records was like an abortion house, and they used to, oh God, these bands. Oh my God, they released, hold on. Speed Metal Symphony in 1987 by Cacophony. Marty Friedman, Jason Becker, Greg Howe, Richie Kotzen, Phantom Blue. He was like one of the last ones. He was kind of like the hippie guy one, whatever. So anyway, so Steve Vai tapped this guy, Devin Townsend, to be the lead singer of his, like, the Steve Vai project, or what it was called. And after that, Devin Townsend released records under the name Strapping Young Lad. This is a true story. Okay, so this is true. I've never liked Devin Townsend, and I will tell you something right now. My opinion of Devin Townsend is without a doubt informed by lookism. I'm a very small person when it comes to certain things. Devin Townsend is one of these guys who's has male pattern baldness, and he's one of these guys. He's had male pattern baldness and had the kind of the horseshoe effect probably since he was 20 something years old, right? But the one thing that has always driven me crazy about guys that are balding is when they're balding, but then they grow their hair long. For whatever, I don't know if a guy that looked like that beat me up as a baby. I have no idea what it is. But whenever I see that, I'm like, just like, shave your fucking head. Right? Or don't, you know, why are you doing the long, like, what are you doing here? Like, whatever. I never liked Devin Townsend's look. And Devin Townsend was one of these guys. I did this because I used to go to music school. Okay. And there's certain guys that it's like, they're the nicest guy in the world, but there's something about them that just makes you like, you just hate them on sight. You have no idea why. And Devin Townsend, for me, they're not cool. They're just not cool. It's like people from like people from New Hampshire. I've never met a person from New Hampshire that I can honestly say that I liked. Like, I don't not like them. I don't hate them. But there's something about the minute they tell me they're from New Hampshire, I'm like, oh, like you might as well tell me like, you're from like an abstinence only reclaiming our virginity support group. Like, it's just like, it's gonna blow my mind, and it's just gonna blow my mind in the opposite direction. Anyway, this is all apropos of nothing. So Strapping Young Lad, I've never really liked. I've heard them. They're one of these, and like I said about the people that are just not cool, they can make an amazing work of art. They could show you like, oh, here's my sketch. And it's like, it looks like the thing that they were supposed to sketch. It's beautiful. There's cross hatching. It's like, it's a pencil drawing, but it jumps off the page. And you just look at it, but you just know that they did it. So you're just like, that's beautiful. But you're like, oh, like someone should light that on fire and then light them on fire because I don't like them. Whatever. You know what I mean? For no reason, And then, so Devin Townsend was always with me. He said, you play me the song. I'd be like, that's pretty good. They would tell me it's Strapping Young Lad. I'd be like, oh, it sucks. I'm a small person in a lot of ways. I'm a work in progress. I am not the world's most perfect, wonderful human being. I am not, and I have never claimed to be so. So I'm talking to this guy, and I'm not just talking to this guy. I'm hanging out with a guy who I like. And I liked him, and we hung out a couple of times, and I forget why we were at his place. Oh, we'd started talking about music, and he was a drummer, I was a bass player, whatever. We talked about different things, and I was like, I came over to his place just to hang out, get high, and listen to music. And he's got this great CD collection. This is like, don't worry about what year it is. And he's a super cool dude, and I like him and whatever. And all of a sudden we're talking. He's like, oh man, he's like, what do you think about Strapping Young Lad? And I'm like, and just like I articulated to you how I feel about Devin Townsend and Strapping Young Lad, I said what I feel about Devin Townsend and Strapping Young Lad from start to finish. Looks like crapola, sounds like crapola. I could give a fuck about Strapping Young Lad. Fuck Devin Townsend. He's one of these guys, it's like, you could be the greatest guitar player in the world, but you're Devin Townsend, and therefore you suck. And I go through all that, and then I swear to Jesus, it's me and this guy in his basement, and we have just gotten super high. And I've just given him the full what is CW Chanter think about Strapping Young Lad and Devin Townsend speech that you just basically heard a Cliff Notes version of. If I'm lying, I'm dying. He takes off his shirt. He has a Strapping Young Lad tattoo. He is Mr. Strapping Young Lad. It was an uncomfortable and awkward situation. Did I mention we were super high? But then he goes on and he explains to me about like Devin Townsend. He's one of these guys, like he collects like the records that just come out in Europe and whatever. And that there was a couple projects that he laid out for me that he thought were going to change my mind. And the only one that kind of came close to, and you can get this on iTunes, Devin Townsend released a record. Let's find it. Hold on. But even with originality music, like he's basically making Rush music. Like, this is the guy. Okay, so here I'm just going to show you Devin Townsend, so I think you're going to get a feel for how I feel about Devin Townsend. Like, this is Devin Townsend looking his best. So this is Devin Townsend in 2014 looking his absolute best. This is Devin Townsend. Devin Townsend could be the nicest guy in the world. Devin Townsend could be the nicest guy in the world. Because he looks like Super Shmoo walking. Because he looks like the guy from The Hills Have Eyes. If the guy from Hills Have Eyes had no personality. Because he looks like Thomas Dolby's synthesizer technician, I will never really be that into Devin Townsend, which is so small and so little. But I guarantee you that there's fugly guys that I like. You know what I mean? I guarantee you that there's ugly people that I like. And it's not even that he's ugly. It's the fact that that's what he looks like. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's like that guy is qualified to teach English as a second language in Canada and bore you with his stories about when he visited Japan. And that's what that guy is like, the Jason Quitt of heavy metal. How I feel about Devin Townsend is pretty much how I feel about Jason Quitt. I kid because I love. I'm not kidding. Stephen Cambion is a close second. You know, the fact that Stephen Cambion is from Pennsylvania makes total sense to me. I'm kidding. I love Stephen Cambion. I love. So anyway, so here we go. Let me go back. Devin Townsend. He released this record that was like, here we go. Let me just say this. Across all his bands, this is from the Wikipedia entry for Devin Townsend. This tells me everything you need to know. Across all his bands and solo project, Townsend has released 23 studio albums and 4 live albums. His trademark production style, featuring a heavily multi-tracked wall of sound, has been compared to the styles of Robert Fripp and Frank Zappa. Exactly. Discography. What was the record? He released this record that it was like, if there was it was about an alien comes to planet Earth. Oh, Ziltoid the Omniscient. And this, I like this album cover, but this is like typical. Like this is like a guy like Devin Townsend, when he gets far out and crazy, is going to come up with something that's like you could sell to Comedy Central. Ziltoid the Omniscient. Let me highlight this for you. Here we go. Pretty good. Share screen on this one. Okay, so Ziltoid the Omniscient. This is concept record. Ziltoid the Omniscient is the 10th studio album by Canadian metal musician Devin Townsend, released on his own label, of course, in May of 2007. Yada, yada, yada. The album is a concept album about an extraterrestrial being named Ziltoid. I mean, the fact that you would call an extraterrestrial entity Ziltoid, that's like Devin Townsend is like one of these guys. He can play any instrument. He's got an amazing vocal range. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have qualities as a human being. I'm not saying he doesn't make music that somebody could love. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be somebody's favorite musician, right? Having said that, it's like, do you know what I mean? Like, George Lucas read The Hero with a Thousand Faces and created the Star Wars saga, right? And Wes Craven read The Hero with a Thousand Faces and created Swamp Thing. I know that was influenced by Alan Moore too, but you know what I'm saying. It was, whatever. Make a joke, but fuck you. The album is a concept album about an extraterrestrial being named Ziltoid from the planet Ziltoidia 9. I get it, but it's like, like I guarantee you that like Devin Townsend's wife thinks Devin Townsend's the coolest guy in the world. Probably, maybe. Ziltoid travels to Earth in search of your universe's ultimate cup of coffee. A cup of coffee is delivered to him, and he is promptly appalled by its taste, declaring it fetid, and summons the Ziltodian warlords to attack Earth. Facing the full might of Earth's army, Townsend describes the album as a mix between Strapping Young Lad and the Devin Townsend Band. That's the other thing with a storyline like that of Punky Brewster's cooked on phonics. Who the fuck is that? Is this a Devin Townsend project? Oh god, he had a Punky Brewster-esque. It's called Punky Brewster. Cooked on. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I hate. This is the Devin Townsend's trash. Let's look at this. I'm just gonna share this. This is all you need to know about Devin Townsend. Anything positive I ever said about Devin Townsend, I take back. Punky Brewster. Right? Like Punky Brewster, but like Punky the metal band, like punk, Punky Brewster, Cooked on Phonics is the debut studio album by Canadian musician Devin Townsend, originally released as Cooked on Phonics under the fictional band name Punky Brewster. It was released on he puts it on himself in 1996. It is a metal punk rock parody concept album. Fuck you. Fuck you, Devin Townsend. Fuck you. You suck. Is he from Canada? I bet you anything. He's Canadian. It makes perfect sense. Like Rush are from Canada. It makes perfect sense. Like there's something desperately wrong with Canada. Are they nice people? Yes, absolutely. A charming lot. The coolest, most awesome, most wonderful thing that a Canadian ever did is nothing compared to what an American is possible of. The Canadian, it's like, what happened to them? That Canadians make me believe in Anunnaki genetic tampering. They really do. They're so like us, but there's, you know what I mean? I am freaked out at times. I'm more freaked out at times by the existence of Canadians in general than I am about like that thing, like that. You ever see that horror movie, Us? Like the underground clones. You know what I mean? What happened? I kid. Of course I kid. Canada is awesome. They're great. Yeah, whatever I said, but I think we just discovered what happened to Scrappy Young Lad. So as I move down the line, Piccolo, here we go. You got it. Say Reamsey, Saint Anger is okay. Reamsey likes Imagine Dragons, so there you go. Here we go. ADDG says, maybe no new music is a good thing. Can't we just have an endless stream of Bollywood music and be happy? Yes, but the problem is it. So what? A lot of what I'm articulating, and in 10 minutes I gotta go. A lot of what I'm articulating, a lot of what gets me upset is the notion that not that what's happening is happening, but that people are in denial about what's happening, and that people want to talk about some Fruit Loop making, you know, bullshit vaporwave music on an Amiga and act like that's revolutionary or something, and want to call a person a musical genius, or just be in denial that we're repeating the same things over and over and over and over again. Excuse me, I got the hiccups now. So there you go. So it, you know, there you go. Spooky Saint Anger was good. Sure, absolutely, you're right. Oh, here we go. So Reepsy goes Metallica vinyl reissue on color vinyl. First 6 albums available now. $24.95 exclusive to Walmart. Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know about the vinyl revival? They're exclusive to Walmart. They are nice and worth getting, sound good, and colors are pretty. I'll take your advice on that. Jolly Bridge Burner says, why is CW doing that soft peak today? Sounding a little breathy there, CW. What's a soft peak? What am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing. And I am recording during the day. I see a cooking reference. The Jonah side, we don't talk about Cold Lake. We must talk about Cold Lake. We must talk about Cold Lake. Dream Theater, 20-year nostalgia loop. Dream Theater, early 90s. Progressive rock and progressive metal is back, man. Yeah, early 90s, early 70s, birth of progressive rock. That's it. And if you want an example of how 20-year nostalgia loops can work, so there was the first glut of progressive rock bands from the early to mid 70s. Okay, Gentle Giant, Yes, you know, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, whatever, you know, the King Crimson, et cetera, right? And then there was progressive bands that came post those guys, but who were doing nothing because progressive rock was dead. Like, so you have a group like Marillion, right? Who can't get arrested. They're making brilliant, amazing records. There was another group, Jam Carrot, I think, were a group. There were plenty of guys that were doing progressive. They were doing progressive rock. They could not get arrested because they were doing progressive rock in 1988, 89, 87, when progressive rock had its peak in the early 70s. These bands couldn't get arrested. Then all of a sudden, Dream Theater comes out on the 20-year nostalgia loop, and Dream Theater become huge. It's the way of the world. Are you going to tell me that Dream Theater are objectively better than Marillion? You're not. It's just not possible. I'm not saying they suck. Lee B. Feldman, what's the second rule? I can't remember. Cannibal Corpse bluegrass record. We're not that far behind. There was a David Lee Roth bluegrass record that came out. Anthrax, Pantera. Again, these are groups that are like their best stuff is way behind them. Like, so like you said, like, it's like when we were talking about Metallica with Saint Anger. Anthrax may have not created a Saint Anger-esque record, but they have just mediocrity to beat the band. Same thing with Slayer. Kept on releasing records. Are some of these records have a couple of good tracks on them? Sure, but a lot of them are just the only purpose of them seems to be a new Slayer record that Slayer fans can buy. And it is what it is. And these are complex subjects, and people can have differences of opinions, and that'll be fine. There you go. We're going to get to the end of the live chat, and I got to go anyway, so we're going to be fine. But yeah, there are only 7 notes. It's beyond that. Oh, here we go. Mac, I saw Judgment Night soundtrack, and I knew to highlight it. Mac Hard says the Judgment Night soundtrack seemed like a nice effort from what I remember 20 years ago. Scores and soundtracks have often impressed me, i.e. Carpenter. That's fine. So when we talk about the Judgment Night soundtrack in particular, it's very interesting to talk about the Judgment Night soundtrack and the soundtrack to a movie called Spawn. Because in both these instances, something happened which I think led directly to the creation of nu metal. Now, the reason I think it's important to highlight this is because both these decisions, the decision behind the Judgment Night soundtrack and the decision behind the Spawn soundtrack, were both corporate decisions. They literally, corporate movie makers wanted to appeal to the youth demographic that they knew comprised of white kids that were listening to heavy metal and alternative rock, and black kids and Latino kids who were listening to rap. Not the way I would articulate it, but it's literally the way corporate America articulated it. So both in the instance of Judgment Night and Spawn, they both made the decision, both entities, movie makers, made the decision to create a soundtrack that had a literal gimmick. And it was done on Judgment Night first, and it was done on Spawn second. And the gimmick was, we're going to take a heavy metal group or an alternative rock group, and we're going to pair them with a rap group. And so each of these groupings are going to create a song for the soundtrack. So Faith No More worked with Booyah Tribe and created a great track called, I think it was Another Body Murdered. And then Helmet worked with Jump Around. What were they called? Helmet and Another Bad Creation. No, House of Pain. Which House of Pain, remember, featured DJ Muggs. DJ Muggs went on to become the DJ for Limp Bizkit. And Everlast, the lead singer of House of Pain, went on and worked the alternative rock angle, as was it, he had that song Whitey Ford Sings the Blues, which was a predecessor to the whole Kid Rock, He's a white guy. He's sometimes country. He's sometimes blues. He's sometimes a rapper, right? Kind of let's mix it all in together. So these were both corporate decisions. And on the Spawn soundtrack, I believe Metallica worked with, I think they worked with DJ Spooky. Let me look this up real quick. Hold on. What ends up happening is if we look at the years of these records, there's a nice soundtrack, and we open up another page for Spawn. Sound. And another, to a lesser degree. Okay, so Judgment Night was 1993. Spawn was 1997. Bear those years in mind when we think of when did rap metal or so-called new metal come along. So Judgment Night is the soundtrack to the 1993 film of the same name. It was released on September 14th, 1993. Every song on the soundtrack was a collaboration between hip-hop artists and rock artists. The album peaked at number 17 on the Billboard 200 and spawned 4 singles: Falling by Teenage Fan Club and De La Soul, Falling, Another Body Murdered by Faith No More and Booyah Tribe. That was great. Just Another Victim by Helmet and House of Pain, and Judgment Night by Biohazard and Onyx, which is a New York on New York mashup. Production. Billboard explains the soundtrack album paired hip-hop artists with modern rock acts. AV Club, who are always wrong, wrote that its musical pairings were designed to capitalize on the burgeoning popularity of rap rock. There was no burgeoning popularity of rap rock. I don't know what they're talking about. All that stuff came post this shit. Oh, God, listen to this. Rolling Stone said of the soundtrack, Judgment Night's bracing rap rock is like the wedding of hillbilly and race music that started the whole thing in the first place. It's an aspiring rebirth. You can't make that shit up. Entertainment Weekly said they can't vouch for the film, but the album is a must. Oh, God. You had Helmet working with House of Pain, Teenage Fan Club working with De La Soul, Living Color and Run DMC, Biohazard and Onyx, Slayer and Ice-T, Faith No More and Booyah Tribe, Sonic Youth and Cypress Hill, Mudhoney and Sir Mix-a-Lot, Dinosaur Jr. and Del Funky, Hopi Sapien, Therapy and Fatal. Therapy can't get arrested. They can't do anything right. Pearl Jam and Cypress Hill worked on a track. Spawn from 1997 has nothing on the Wikipedia. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Rock metal bands, time including Metallica, Korn, Slayer, Marilyn Manson, Stabbing Westward, Filter, Soul Confident, Silverchair, in collaboration with well-known electronica techno producers. So look at that. In 1993, they do the rap metal hybrid, and then in 1997, electronica. 1997 to 1977, boo! Disco is king. 1997, it's all about the electronica, man. Pfft, it's disco music. Cox. And there you go. And it was a corporate decision all the way. It's a corporate decision all the way. Corporate decisions. Killendall says, CW, part of what you do here is a bit like looking at the alphabet and saying every book made from the alphabet is a copy. I disagree with your statement, but I honor your statement by highlighting it. I don't think that's, I don't believe that that's true. I believe my articulation of my points belies that fact. And I think your assessment is your assessment, but I believe that it's, I believe that it's facile and simplistic. But God bless you. You give an assessment of the thoughts I put forward. I give you a counter assessment of your criticism. Never promised you that I agree. I gotta go. Let me do this real quick. I'm going back 10 years in the live chat and acting like, let's do this quick. Hold on. Synthetic Rebellion's here. I got Hendrix at Winterland on vinyl at Target last week. There you go. Oh my God. What's the soft peak? What is this? I know it from whipping eggs, so I don't know how you guys are seeing it in regards to this. Oh, soft speak. Sorry. Like, oh, it's because there's other people in the office suite because we're recording early, so that's why I'm being a little bit quieter. And I was hoping that would also make me not yell at people and scream. Reamsey, King Crimsey is sort of noisy sometimes. Absolutely, they were. Reamsey, Marillion Rocks. Absolutely, they do. Now remember, I don't think that we're talking about. Remember, because people were talking about tonal music, it really has nothing to do with the fact that we're repeating 1 4 5 song structures or something like this. Okay, I do gotta go. We're not talking about like the inherent limitations of Western tonal music or the like. It's beyond that. But I'm not going to reopen the. Sweet Cheek says, "Damn, never get here on time. Don't worry, it's okay." 4:53. Susan Brooks says, "What? I just got on in time to end. That's my whole week. That's life. That's life, baby." Oh my God, Mudvayne. Jeez, Louise. Spawn soundtrack end of the '90s. Spawn had new metal bands on it. There you go. It all comes full circle, right? But see, but that almost proves my point because from '93 you have the soundtrack that influenced the creation of new metal to '97 you have established new metal bands who are going to be working with techno musicians, right? I don't know. A lot of my analysis could be considered sloppy. A lot of my analysis is subject to revision and change. And I never, and something can be gimmicky and still work. Jason Albert, Tron Legacy soundtrack, good or no? It's not about it being good or bad, but definitely by the time you get to Tron Legacy, we're getting to levels of nostalgia that are just insane. And remember, the Tron Legacy soundtrack was done by Daft Punk, who are absolute masters of the 20-year nostalgia loop. Absolute masters of the 20-year nostalgia loop. The Homework record from 1995 or 6 is an absolute love letter to the proto hip hop and beginnings of um, disco dance music from the 20 years earlier, 70s earlier. Absolute love letter to that sound. Damien Spencer, they may have DJ Mustard now, but the original DJ for Korn Limp Bizkit was it was DJ Muggs. It was. Synthetic Rebellion says, "I saw Limp Bizkit get booed off the stage opening for Faith No More in Philly. It was great. That's awesome." There you go. You wish. Oh my God, Toad the Wet Sprocket. Yikes. DJ Lethal, was that the guy's name? Yes. DJ Muggs was from Cypress Hill. DJ Lethal was from Limp Bizkit and House of Pain. I could be. I stand corrected. Oh my God. We got Blind Melon Love. See, we go from a sort of dour beginning to ending on Blind Melon Love. Synthetic Rebellion says, "I like Judgment Night soundtrack. Not everything has to be meaningful art. Sometimes you just want to have fun. Girls just want to have fun." Synthetic Rebellion, and now we know you are one. Anyway, moving on down the line. We're just busting through it. So there we go. There you go. Fear Factory worked with that guy from Skinny Puppy. Everyone worked with that guy from Skinny Puppy, right? Oh my God, Zikafoos 2020, name dropping Yellow Swans and Purient went from noise to techno. Absolutely. Bermuda Drain and all that stuff. If you go back 20 years early from Yellow Swans and Purient, if you go back 20 years earlier, you literally see the same life cycle of early industrial noise groups turning into proto techno bands. Hold on, wait. It's not that I get telemarketers that annoys me. It's the same telemarketers calling me over and over again. And I really despise the fact that there's people that the law says if I ask to be taken off the call list, they have to take me off the call list. But how they get away with it? They call me from India. They're like, what are you going to do? Sue us in India? It is what it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. So there you go. But anyway, I love you. I got to run. At this point, I got to run. I'm got to fly. I love you. I love you. I love you. If no one told they loved you today, somebody just did that. Somebody CW Chanter, make of it what you will. Okay. I thank you for spending this time with me. I thank you for taking this time to be with me and hearing me out. Remember, folks, let's debate me. Nothing would make me happier at this point than if people were to absolutely get together and prove me wrong. Disavow me of this belief that there's no new music. Disavow me of it. Prove me wrong. We'll all be the better for it. And then we can go back to talking about Carrie Cassidy, right? Anyway, I love you. Until next time.